The distress call came through at 3 in the morning ship time. It was weak and broken, filled with static and fear. The voice spoke in, a language that sounded like wind passing through hollow bones. But the translation software on the Iron Wake worked fast, and soon the words filled the bridge. "Please, anyone, we are under attack. Our shields are failing. Our engines are dead. Please help us, please." Captain sat in his command chair with his eyes closed. He had been sleeping or trying to sleep. The dreams had been bad again. They were always bad. But when the distress call came through, he opened his eyes and looked at the main screen. The signal was coming from deep space, far from any trade routes or colonies. It was a place where ships went to hide or to die. "How far?" asked. The pilot checked her console. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and steady hands. She had been flying ships since she was 16. 4 hours at maximum speed, maybe 3 if we push the engines. "Push them," said. The Iron Wake was not a large ship. It was built for speed and combat, not comfort. The hull was dark gray, covered in scars from old battles. The engines were loud and powerful. When pushed them to full speed, the whole ship shook like a living thing. The weapons officer walked onto the bridge with a cup of coffee in his hand. He was tall and thin, with a calm face that never showed emotion. He had killed more enemies than anyone else on the ship, but he never talked about it. "Another distress call?" he asked. "Research vessel," said. "Raiders hit them near the dead zone." Nodded and sat at his station. He began checking the weapon systems without being told. The Iron Wake carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Knew every gun, every missile, every system. They were his children in a way. The crew of the Iron Wake was small. Only 47 humans lived and worked on the ship. They were all volunteers, all soldiers, all survivors of one war or another. They had joined the fleet because they believed in something. They believed that the galaxy was cruel and that someone had to fight against that cruelty. Humans were called by the other species. Earth was a planet of extremes. The gravity was heavy. The weather was violent. The animals were dangerous. And the humans who evolved there were built to survive. They were strong and fast and stubborn. They healed quickly. They could eat almost anything. They could live in conditions that would kill most aliens in hours. But what made humans truly different was something else, something that confused and frightened the other species. Humans helped strangers. They ran toward danger instead of away from it. They heard a cry for help and they answered, even when it made no sense. They were not allies of humanity. They were not enemies either. They were just another species trying to survive in a galaxy that did not care about them. They were small and fragile, with thin bones and large eyes. Their ships were built for research, not for fighting. They studied stars and planets and the mysteries of the universe. They meant no harm to anyone. And now they were dying in the void, alone and afraid. Watched the stars streak past on the main screen. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. He thought about the voice in the distress call. It had sounded so scared, so desperate. He wondered how many were on that ship. He wondered how many were already dead. "Captain," said, "I am picking up more signals, raider ships, at least 6 of them." There were pirates. They attacked weak ships and stole everything valuable. They killed survivors because dead witnesses told no stories. They were cruel and greedy and they feared nothing. Except they had never met humans before. "Do they know we are coming?" asked. "No," said. "They are too busy with the ship. They are not watching their sensors." Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had spotted prey. "Good. Let them be surprised." The hours passed slowly. The crew prepared for battle. They checked their weapons and their armor. They ran drills and reviewed plans. No one complained. No one asked why they were risking their lives for strangers. They all knew why. Because it was the right thing to do. The medical officer walked onto the bridge near the end of the journey. She was older than the others, maybe 40, with kind eyes and gentle hands. She had saved hundreds of lives in her career. She had also lost many patients. The losses haunted her, but she never stopped trying. "How bad will it be?" she asked. "Bad," he said. "They are fragile. Their injuries will be serious." Nodded. "I have prepared the medical bay. We can handle up to 30 wounded." "There might be more than 30. "Then we will find a way," said. "We always do." The Iron Wake dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the battle zone. The main screen showed the scene clearly. The research vessel was a beautiful ship, shaped like a silver leaf, but now it was broken and burning. Holes covered its hull. Air leaked into space. Emergency lights flickered through the windows. Around it, like wolves around a wounded deer, the raider ships circled. They were ugly vessels built from stolen parts and covered in sharp spikes. They carried weapons meant to cause pain and terror. They moved slowly, taking their time. They thought they had won. They were wrong. "All hands to battle stations," said. His voice was calm and cold. "Bring us in close, prepare all weapons." "Yes, Captain," they both said. The Iron Wake moved forward into the darkness. They had arrived, and they had heard the call for help loud and clear. They did not know it yet, but their time was running out. The commander was named. He was large for his species, with thick green skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. He sat on the bridge of his ship, the Claw of Night, and watched his raiders tear apart the vessel. It was easy work. The research ship had no real weapons. Its shields had failed after the first attack. Now it just floated there, bleeding air and fire into the void. Was pleased. The ship carried valuable research equipment, star maps, scientific data, medical supplies. All of it would sell for good prices on the black market. They themselves were worthless. They were too weak to work as slaves, too fragile to survive in captivity. Had already given the order to kill them all once the looting was finished. "Commander," one of his officers said, "new contact on sensors, one ship approaching from the outer system." Did not move from his seat. "What kind of ship?" "Unknown design, small, fast. It is coming directly toward us." One ship laughed. The sound was deep and wet, like rocks grinding together underwater. "One ship thinks it can challenge 6 raiders." "Should we destroy it, Commander?" "No," said. "Let it come closer. I want to see what fool would be so stupid." The Iron Wake cut through space like a blade through water, kept her hands steady on the controls. She had flown through asteroid fields and plasma storms. She had dodged missiles and laser fire, but she had never felt more focused than she did now. The ship was dying. Every second mattered. "I am reading life signs on the vessel," she reported. 53 survivors. They are gathered in the central section." "Can the ship hold together?" asked. "Maybe for another hour. The hull is breaking apart." Nodded. An hour was enough. It had to be enough. Studied his weapons console. The Iron Wake carried that could punch through armor like paper. It carried missile pods filled with warheads designed to shatter shields. It carried point defense lasers that could cut small ships in half. All of it was ready. All of it was hungry. "The ships are not moving," said. "They are waiting for us." Arrogant, said. "They think we are prey." "They do not know what humans are," said. "They have probably never seen one of our ships." "Then we will teach them," replied. The Iron Wake slowed as it approached the battle zone. The raiders turned to face it. Their weapons powered up. Their shields activated. They moved into an attack formation, spreading out to surround the small human ship. Opened a communication channel. His ugly face appeared on the main screen of the Iron Wake. He smiled, showing rows of yellow teeth. "Little ship," he said, "you have made a big mistake. Turn around and fly away, and maybe I will let you live. Stay, and you will die with the—" Stood up from his chair. He walked toward the screen until his face filled the image on its end. The human captain did not smile. His eyes were dark and cold, like the void itself. "This is captain of the human warship Iron Wake," he said. "You have attacked innocent people. You have committed crimes against the defenseless. I am giving you one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons. Release any prisoners. Prepare to be boarded and arrested." Stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he laughed. The sound echoed through both bridges. "Humans," he said, "I have heard stories about your kind from a toxic planet, strong and stupid. You think you can threaten me. I have 6 ships, you have 1. The mathematics is simple." "You are right," said. "The mathematics is simple, 6 of you, 47 of us. That means each of my crew only has to kill a few dozen of your raiders. We have done more with less." Smile faded. He leaned forward in his chair. "You are bluffing." "I never bluff," said. "This is your last warning. Surrender or die." The communication channel closed. Silence filled the bridge of the Iron Wake. The crew waited. They knew what was coming. They had all been in battles before. They knew the moment before violence better than they knew peace. "They are powering weapons," reported. "All 6 ships." Said quietly, "Show them what it can do." Smiled. Her hands moved across the controls. The Iron Wake surged forward with impossible speed. The ship twisted and spun, dodging the first barrage of enemy fire. Missiles streaked past. Laser beams cut through empty space where the ship had been a moment before. But the Iron Wake was already somewhere else. "First target locked," said, firing. The spoke. They made no sound in the vacuum of space, but inside the ship, the crew felt the deep vibration of metal accelerating to incredible speeds. The projectiles crossed the distance between ships in less than a second. The first raider exploded. Its shields meant nothing. Its armor meant nothing. The rounds punched through the hull and destroyed the reactor core. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire that quickly died in the airless void. "One down," said. The other ships scattered. They were no longer laughing. They were no longer confident. They had just watched one of their own die in an instant, destroyed by a single enemy that should have been easy prey. Screamed orders at his crew. Kill them all, concentrate fire." But the Iron Wake was too fast. Flew the ship through the enemy formation like a dancer moving through a crowd. She knew where every shot would come before it was fired. She knew where every ship would turn before it moved. She had been born to fly, and she flew like nothing they had ever seen. Fired again. Another raider died. Then another. The missiles joined the attack, streaking toward targets that could not escape. Point defense lasers cut down enemy fighters that tried to intercept. Inside the ship, the survivors watched through broken windows. They saw the human vessel moving through the battle like a spirit of vengeance. They saw the raiders that had tormented them burning and dying. They did not understand what was happening. They did not understand why this stranger had come to save them. But they felt something they had not felt in hours. They felt hope. 4 ships were now debris. The remaining 2 tried to run. Their engines flared as they turned away from the battle, desperate to escape the monster they had awakened. Watch them flee on the main screen. His face showed nothing. "Do we chase them?" asked. "No," said. "Let them go. Let them tell others what happened here. Let the galaxy know that when someone calls for help, humans answer." He turned toward the ship. The battle was over, but the rescue had just begun. "Bring us alongside," he ordered. "Prepare boarding teams, and get your medical equipment ready. We have people to save." The Iron Wake moved gently toward the wounded research vessel. They had come, and they had done what due. They had won. The debris field stretched across thousands of kilometers. Broken ships floated in the darkness, their hulls torn open and their fires extinguished by the cold vacuum of space. Metal fragments drifted slowly, catching the light of distant stars. It was a graveyard now, a monument to the foolishness of those who had underestimated guided the Iron Wake through the wreckage with careful precision. She avoided the larger pieces and let the smaller fragments bounce harmlessly off the shields. Her eyes moved constantly, scanning for dangers, calculating trajectories, adjusting course. Flying was not just her job, it was her art. "The ship is losing atmosphere faster than expected," she reported. "Structural integrity is at 20%. It could break apart at any moment." Leaned forward in his chair. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 30 minutes, maybe less." "Then we work fast." Activated the ship-wide communication system. "All boarding teams prepare for immediate deployment. We are going in hard. Move quickly and carefully. They are fragile. Their gravity is lighter than ours. Watch your strength." The boarding teams assembled in the airlock chambers. They wore environmental suits that could handle vacuum and toxic atmospheres. They carried medical supplies and emergency equipment. They were not going to fight. They were going to save lives. Remained at his station on the bridge. His weapons were still powered, still ready. The two surviving raiders had fled, but they might return with reinforcements. Would be watching. He would be waiting. "I am reading more life signs now," said. "Some of them are very weak. They do not have much time." The Iron Wake positioned itself alongside the vessel. The two ships were very different. The human warship was dark and angular, built for war. The research ship was elegant and curved, built for exploration. But now they were connected by a single purpose. The boarding tubes extended from the Iron Wake and attached to the hull. The seals locked into place. Air rushed into the tubes, and then the humans went in. Led the first team personally. He pushed through the tube and emerged into the ship. The interior was dark and filled with smoke. Emergency lights flickered red and orange. The artificial gravity was failing, making everything feel light and unstable. "Spread out," ordered. "Find survivors, bring them to the boarding tubes." His team moved quickly through the corridors. They found bodies first, crew members who had died in the initial attack. Their thin bodies lay crumpled on the floor, their large eyes staring at nothing. Felt anger burn in his chest. These people had done nothing wrong. They had been scientists and explorers. They had not deserved this. He pushed the anger down. There would be time for grief later. Now was the time for action. "Captain," one of his soldiers called. "Survivors ahead." Ran toward the voice. He found a group of huddled in what looked like a storage room. They were terrified. When they saw the humans enter, they pressed themselves against the walls. Their bodies trembled. Their eyes were wide with fear. Stopped at the entrance. He held up his hands, showing that they were empty. "We are here to help," he said. His translator device converted his words into the language. "We received your distress call. We are going to take you to safety." They did not move. They stared at him like he was a monster, and in a way he understood. To them, humans were creatures from a violent planet. They had probably heard stories about human strength and human aggression. They had probably heard that humans could crush bones with their bare hands. Those stories were true, but they were not the whole truth. A young female stepped forward. She was holding a child in her arms, a small creature no bigger than a human baby. The child was unconscious, its breathing shallow. "Please," the female said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My daughter is hurt. Can you help her?" Knelt down so that he was at her level. He moved slowly, carefully, the way you would move around a frightened animal. "What is your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she said. "My daughter is." "Lyra, my name is. I have a medical officer on my ship. She is very good at her job. She will do everything she can to help, but we need to move now. This ship is going to fall apart soon." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. She was measuring him, trying to decide if she could trust this strange alien from a world of death. Finally, she nodded. "We will come with you," she said. Stood and turned to the other. "All of you follow us. Stay close. We will protect you." They moved through the dying ship as fast as they could. The humans carried those who could not walk. They supported those who were too weak to move alone. They were so light that a human could carry two of them at once without much effort. But the ship was breaking apart around them. Walls buckled, floors cracked. Air rushed through new holes in the hull, creating winds that pushed and pulled at their bodies. "Move faster," shouted. "We are running out of time." They reached the boarding tubes just as a section of the corridor behind them collapsed. Metal screamed and twisted. Fire erupted from broken power lines. But the humans did not stop. They pushed into the tubes and followed right behind. Was waiting in the iron wake. Her medical bay was ready. Beds were prepared. Equipment was powered. Her team stood by, ready to work. The first came through the tubes. They were confused and scared, but spoke to them gently. She guided them to the medical bay. She began treating injuries immediately. Burns, broken bones, internal bleeding. The work was hard and fast. Stayed at the boarding tubes, helping survivors cross over. He counted them as they came, 20, 30, 40. Each one was a victory, each one was a life saved. Captain's voice came through his earpiece. "The ship is going critical. You need to get out now." "Are there more survivors?" asked. "Sensors show 3 more life signs in the lower decks, but the path is blocked by debris." Did not hesitate. Disconnect the boarding tubes. Take the iron wake to safe distance. "What about you?" "I am going to get those last 3. He turned and ran back into the dying ship. His soldiers tried to follow, but he ordered them back. This was his choice, his risk. He would not ask anyone else to take it. The lower decks were a nightmare. Fire and smoke filled the corridors. The gravity had failed completely. Leaving floating in zero-G, he pulled himself along the walls, moving toward the life signs on his scanner. He found them in what had been the engine room. 3 engineers, trapped behind a wall of twisted metal. They saw him coming and cried out in fear. "I am here to help," shouted. He grabbed the metal blocking their path and pulled. His muscles strained. His suit's power systems whined with effort. The metal groaned and shifted. And then it moved. Tore the debris away piece by piece. They watched in amazement. They had never seen such strength. They had never imagined that anyone could do what this human was doing. When the path was clear, grabbed all 3 of them. He carried them through the burning corridors, through the collapsing sections, back toward the emergency airlocks. Behind them, the ship was dying. Explosions ripped through the hull. The reactor was going critical. They reached an airlock just as the iron wake returned. Had never really left. She had been waiting, trusting that her captain would succeed. The airlock opened, through the inside and jumped in after them. The door sealed behind him, and a moment later the research ship exploded. The blast pushed the iron wake away, but the shields held. Floated in the airlock, breathing hard, holding the 3 engineers he had saved. 53 survivors, all of them safe, all of them alive. The storm had passed, and the had weathered it. The medical bay of the iron wake had never been so crowded. 53 survivors filled every bed and every corner. They sat on the floor. They leaned against walls. They huddled together in small groups, seeking comfort from familiar faces. The air was thick with the smell of medicine and fear. Moved through them like a calm wind through a troubled forest. She spoke softly to each patient. She checked wounds and administered treatments. Her hands were steady and gentle, even when the injuries were severe. "You are safe now," she told them again and again. "No one will hurt you here." They did not fully believe her. They watched the human medical officer with wide, uncertain eyes. Every movement she made startled them. Every tool she picked up made them flinch. They had been taught from childhood that were dangerous, that humans were unpredictable predators who could kill without warning. But this human was washing their wounds with warm water. This human was wrapping their broken limbs with soft bandages. This human was saving their lives. Lyra sat in the corner with her daughter in her arms. The little girl was still unconscious. Her breathing was shallow and weak. Lyra had not stopped crying since they boarded the human ship. She had lost everything. Her colleagues, her research, her home among the stars. All she had left was her daughter, and even that might be taken from her. Approached her slowly. She knelt down so that she was at Lyra's level, the same way Captain had done on the ship. It seemed to be something humans did when they wanted to show respect. "May I examine your daughter?" asked. Lyra hesitated. She looked at the human's hands. They were larger than hands, with thick fingers that could crush bone. But they were also covered in scars, the marks of someone who had worked hard to heal others. "Please," Lyra whispered, "save her." Carefully took from her mother's arms. The little weighed almost nothing. She was so small and fragile that was afraid to move too quickly. She carried the child to a medical bed and began her examination. The other humans on the ship had gathered outside the medical bay. They watched through the windows, their faces serious and concerned. These were soldiers, warriors, people who had seen death and violence throughout their lives. But now they stood in silence, hoping that a small alien child would survive. Captain walked through the crowd. He was still wearing his environmental suit, which was scorched and dented from the rescue. He had not taken time to change or rest. He stopped at the window and looked inside. "How bad is it?" he asked. One of his soldiers, a man named, shook his head. Said the little one has internal bleeding. The trauma from the attack damaged her organs. "Can fix it." "She is trying, but biology is different from ours. The books only tell us so much." Placed his hand against the window. He thought about the moment when Lyra had approached him on the dying ship, the way she had held her daughter, the desperation in her voice. He had promised to help. He had promised that everything would be okay. He did not make promises lightly, and he did not break them. Inside the medical bay, worked with fierce concentration. She used every tool available to her. She referenced medical databases. She consulted with the ship's computer. She even asked themselves for information about their physiology. The hours passed slowly. The crew of the Iron Wake waited. Some of them prayed. Some of them paced. Some of them simply stood in silence, watching the medical bay and hopping for good news. Lyra did not move from her spot near the medical bed. She watched work with an intensity that was almost painful. She did not understand all the human medical technology. She did not know what half the machines did, but she understood dedication when she saw it. This human was fighting for her daughter's life, as if was her own child. Near midnight ship time, finally stepped back from the medical bed. Her face was tired, but her eyes were bright. She looked at Lyra and smiled. "The bleeding has stopped," said. "She is going to be okay." Lyra collapsed. Her thin legs gave out beneath her and she fell to the floor. But she was not crying from grief anymore. She was crying from relief, from gratitude, from something she could not name but felt with every part of her being. Helped her stand. The human medical officer held the alien mother in her arms and let her cry. It did not matter that they were different species. It did not matter that they had never met before today. In that moment, they were just two people sharing a burden that had finally been lifted. Word spread through the ship. The child would survive. The rescue was complete. The human crew cheered. They hugged each other. They laughed and cried. These were hardened warriors who had faced death countless times, and they were celebrating the survival of a single alien girl they had never met before. Captain entered the medical bay. He walked to where Lyra was standing and bowed his head slightly. It was a gesture of respect that he had learned meant something in culture. "Your daughter is strong," he said. "She fought hard to stay alive." Lyra looked at him. Her large eyes were still wet with tears. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you come? Why did you risk so much for us? We are strangers to you. We are nothing." Considered her question carefully. It was a question he had been asked many times by many different species. The answer was always the same. "You are not nothing," he said. "You are people. You were in danger. You called for help. That is enough reason for us. But your kind is feared across the galaxy. Everyone says you are violent, dangerous. that you destroy everything you touch. Nodded, we can be violent, we can be dangerous. Our world made us strong because we had to be strong to survive. But strength is not just about fighting, it is about protecting. It is about helping those who cannot help themselves. He paused and looked around the medical bay at all the survivors. We did not cross the galaxy to hurt you. We came because someone was in pain and we could stop it. Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone in the room. She reached out and took his hand. Her thin fingers wrapped around his thick ones. She held on tightly, as if his hand was the only solid thing in a universe that had tried to break her. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for hearing our call." Squeezed her hand gently, careful not to use too much pressure. "We will always hear," he said. "We will always answer." The night continued on the Iron Wake, kept working, treating the remaining injured. The crew took shifts, bringing food and water to the survivors. Some humans sat with and talked with them, using translation devices to share stories and offer comfort. And in the medical bay, a little girl named opened her eyes for the first time since the attack. She saw her mother's face above her, and she smiled. They had done the impossible. They had turned the void into a place of hope. 3 days passed on the Iron Wake. The ship moved through space at a comfortable speed, heading toward territory. There was no rush now. The danger had passed. The survivors were healing. Life continued in its strange and beautiful way. Captain stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He came here often when he needed to think. The view always reminded him of how small he was and how large the universe was. It was a humbling feeling, but also a comforting one. The door opened behind him. He did not turn around. He already knew who it was. "Captain," Lyra said, "may I join you?" "Of course." She walked to stand beside him. In the past 3 days, something had changed in her. The fear was still there, deep in her eyes, but it was mixed with something else now. Curiosity, respect, maybe even trust. "My people have a story," she said. "It is very old. It tells of spirits who live in the darkness between stars. They watch over travelers and protect them from harm. We call them the guardians of the void." "It sounds like a beautiful story," said. "I used to think it was just a legend, something parents told children to help them sleep, but now I am not so sure." She turned to look at him. "You came out of the darkness. You saved us when we had no hope left. You are real, Captain. You and your crew, you are the guardians we always dreamed of." Was quiet for a moment. He did not know how to respond to such words. He was just a soldier doing his job, a man trying to make the galaxy a little less cruel. "We are not spirits," he finally said. "We are just humans. We make mistakes. We get tired. We feel fear just like everyone else." "But you came anyway." "Yes, we came anyway." Lyra nodded slowly. She understood now. That was what made humans different, not their strength or their speed or their ability to survive on dangerous worlds. It was their choice to act, their decision to run toward danger instead of away from it, their refusal to ignore a cry for help, even when helping seemed impossible. "What will happen now?" she asked. "When we reach space?" "We will deliver you safely to your people will take care of you from there. You can rebuild, start new research, make new memories." "And you, what will you do?" Smiled slightly. "We will keep moving. There is always another call, always someone who needs help." "You never rest." "We rest when we can, but the universe does not sleep, so neither can we." Down in the main corridors of the ship, an unexpected friendship had formed. The little girl had recovered faster than anyone expected. She was small and curious, following the human crew members everywhere they went. At first, the humans were careful around her. They moved slowly and spoke softly, afraid of frightening her. But was not afraid, she was fascinated. She followed to the bridge and watched her fly the ship. She watched clean the weapon systems. She watched organize the medical supplies. She asked endless questions through her translation device, and the humans answered every single one. "Why are your eyes so small?" she asked. Laughed, "Our sun is bright. We do not need big eyes to see." "Why are you so heavy?" "Our planet has strong gravity. It made us dense." "Why do you help strangers?" This question made pause. She thought about it carefully before answering. "Because we know what it feels like to be alone and afraid, and we do not want anyone else to feel that way." Considered this answer for a long time. Then she nodded, satisfied. Had become particularly fond of the little girl. The tough soldier who had fought in dozens of battles now spent his free time playing simple games with. He taught her human words. He showed her pictures of Earth. He told her stories about his childhood. "You are good with her," observed one evening. Shrugged, "She reminds me of my niece back home. Same curiosity, same spirit." "Do you miss home?" "Every day. But I would miss it more if I knew that children were being hurt while I did nothing." On the final day of the journey, the Iron Wake approached territory. A fleet of ships came to meet them. They were elegant vessels, built for science and exploration, and they surrounded the human warship with careful respect. A communication channel opened. An official appeared on the screen. He was older, with pale blue skin and very large eyes. He looked at Captain with an expression that mixed amazement and gratitude. "Human vessel," he said, "we have received reports of what you did, how you saved our people, how you fought the raiders and rescued our survivors. We do not have words sufficient to thank you." Stood tall before the screen. "No thanks are necessary. We did what anyone should do." "But few would do it," the official said. "Few would risk their lives for strangers. Few would cross the void to answer a call from people they had never met." He paused. "You have given us more than our people. You have given us hope." "That is all we wanted to give." The survivors began to transfer to their own ships. They moved slowly, reluctantly. After 3 days on the Iron Wake, they had grown used to the humans. They had learned that we're not monsters. They were protectors. Lyra was the last to leave. She stood at the airlock within her arms. The little girl was crying. She did not want to go. She wanted to stay with her new friends. Lyra said gently, "We must go home now. Our family is waiting." "But I will miss them," sobbed. "I will miss and I will miss the captain." Knelt down before her. He reached out and placed his hand on her small head, touching her gently. "We will not forget you," he said. "And if you ever need us again, we will come. No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, you just have to call." Looked at him with her large, wet eyes. "Promise." "I promise." She threw her arms around his neck. The hug was light and delicate, but felt it with his whole heart. He held her carefully, afraid of breaking her, amazed that such a small creature could contain so much love. When they finally separated, Lyra bowed deeply to him. It was the highest gesture of respect in culture. "The galaxy will know what you did here," she said. "I will make sure of it. Everyone will learn that when a distress call echoes through the void, they hear it, and they answer." Bowed in return. "Safe travels, Lyra. Take care of. She is going to change the universe someday." The airlock closed. The ships departed, and the Iron Wake turned back toward the darkness, ready for the next call that would surely come. On the bridge, the crew stood in silence for a moment. They had accomplished something meaningful. They had made a difference in a universe that often seemed indifferent. "Where to next, Captain?" asked. Looked at the stars stretching out before them. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Somewhere out there, someone was calling for help. "Wherever we are needed," he said. "We keep moving until we find the next voice crying out in the darkness, and then we answer." The Iron Wake accelerated into the void. They had made a promise and they intended to keep it, now and forever. As long as there were calls echoing through the endless night, they would hear them. Loud and clear.